Welcome to the deep dive. Today, we're digging into Putin's POP picks for May 11th, 2025. We've got the summary right here from putinspop.com.
Right.
And our goal, really, is to pull out the key insights from their analysis of a couple of baseball games, see how they're using the data.
Yeah, exactly. Sort of unpack their thinking, see what probabilities they're highlighting, and why.
Okay, let's start with the Padres versus the Rockies. Putin's POP has this labeled a strong play. That's Padres money line at 9/275.
Steep odds.
Yeah, meaning you got to bet $275 just to win $100 potentially. They gave this a 94 out of 100 confidence score.
Which they translate to an 84% win probability for San Diego. That's quite high.
It really is. So
Yeah,
what's
okay.
making them so confident? What's the breakdown?
Well, it looks like it boils down to some pretty big statistical gaps, especially in pitching.
Okay.
The Padres team ERA is solid, 3.53. That's top 10 in the league. But their bullpen, it's something else. They're number one in the league in BP ERA. That's batting performance ERA, kind of defense independent at 2.42. And also number one in DBT walks plus hits per inning at just 1.06. Wow. Okay. So just lights out from the bullpen. What about the Rockies? Pretty much the opposite story. Their offense is really sputtering, scoring only like 3.18 runs per game. That's 29th.
Ouch.
Yeah. And their pitching, it's got the highest ERA in the whole league, 5.89.
So a struggling offense and, well, league worst pitching. That sounds not ideal for the Rockies. Does the starting pitcher matchup follow that trend?
Oh, absolutely. Another huge edge for the Padres, according to this. They've got Nick Pivetta starting, and his ERA is a stellar 2.01.
Nice.
He's facing German Marquez for the Rockies, who has really been having a rough time. His ERA is way up at 9.90.
Yikes. Even playing at Coors Field, which helps hitters usually.
Even there, the analysis suggests Pivetta should still manage well, given that massive ERA difference.
Gotcha. They also mentioned strikeouts, right? How does that fit in?
It does. The Padres pitchers, they rack up strikeouts about 8.67 per 9 innings.
Okay.
And the Rockies hitters, they tend to strike out a lot. Their team rate is high, 26.7%.
Okay.
So it's a Padres strength playing right into a Rockies weakness.
Makes sense.
Plus, even if the Rockies bullpen is kind of average, it probably won't match up well late in the game against that elite Padres bullpen we mentioned.
Right. So that mismatch across the board is why they feel those Natchez and 275 odds are justified, even though they're steep.
Yeah, that seems to be the core argument, a significant overall mismatch.
Okay, let's shift gears. The second game, Phillies versus Guardians. This one's a good play on the Phillies money line at Nagish 165. Confidence score is 85, win probability 70%.
Right, still a strong lean towards the Phillies, but maybe not quite the slam dunk the Padres game looked like on paper.
So what's driving the value here for the Phillies?
Well, the Phillies bring a pretty decent offense to the table, averaging 4.82 runs per game. And their pitching is solid, too, ERA of 3.86, and they get a lot of strikeouts. K per 9 is high at 9.79.
Okay, solid numbers. And for the Guardians?
The Guardians are more, middle of the pack offensively, 4.21 runs per game. Their pitching, though, is weaker. Team ERA is up at 5.43.
And the starters?
Again, advantage Phillies. Zach Wheeler, who's generally reliable, has a 3.35 ERA. He's up against Luis Ortiz for the Guardians, whose ERA is quite a bit higher at 5.3.
Okay. Now, Progressive Field, the Guardians Park, is known as pitcher-friendly. How does that factor in?
Well, that environment should actually help the Phillies' strong pitching staff even more.
Right.
But there is a note of caution here from Putin's POP. They mentioned the Phillies' bullpen is, quote, shaky.
Okay, so maybe not as reliable as the Padres bullpen.
Exactly. So while the Phillies seem likely to get an early lead with Wheeler and their offense, there's maybe a bit more risk later in the game compared to the Padres. Still, the overall stats point towards Philadelphia.
Got it. And just zooming out for a second, how's Putin's POP actually been doing with these picks overall this season, according to their own tracking?
Well, their record on these strong plays is listed as 11 wins and 3 losses. For the good plays, it's 7 wins and 6 losses.
So better on the strong plays, a bit closer to .500 on the good plays.
Yeah, seems that way. Overall, they report 18 wins against 9 losses and a small bankroll increase of 3.4%. Gives you some context, at least.
Okay, so recapping quickly. Padres-Rockies is about that huge pitching difference, starter and bullpen, favoring the Padres heavily.
Definitely.
And Phillies-Guardians, it's more about a solid edge for the Phillies in starting pitching and offense, but with maybe a question mark around their bullpen late in the game.
That sums it up pretty well. It really highlights how they're using those specific statistical comparisons, especially pitching matchups, to find spots they think offer value.
Right. It really shows that data-driven approach in action. And, thinking about this analysis, it makes you wonder, how can understanding these kinds of statistical edges, looking for those key performance indicators, comparing strengths and weaknesses, how could you maybe apply that kind of thinking to your own decisions, not just sports, but, anywhere you need to weigh probabilities?
Yeah, that's a great takeaway, something to think about beyond just these games.